Hi, I'm Jess Pressland, the CEO of the JP Group. I've been developing managers for over 20 years. In this podcast, I'm going to be sharing my stories and insights to where leaders get it wrong and what they can do to get it right, wherever you are in your leadership journey. In this episode, we're looking at management communications. Everyone is watching. Not just in the good times, but they are looking at you and watching you when it's a difficult conversation. We're under pressure. Your client's just being really rude to you. So all of those real situations, they're looking to you of oh my gosh, how are they going to respond to that? So your communication matters all of the time. On previous episodes, I have spoken about role modeling a lot because it's a massive piece for leadership. So role modeling your communication because they're always watching you, which is around being an assertive communicator. I was speaking with a leader this week, actually. He was really adamant he was right because it came from a really good place. He admitted that he had been aggressive to a subcontractor in front of the team because he felt they were being really rude and disrespectful to his team member. So he shouted at this person because he was like, I'm not having anybody speak to my team like that. Okay. So I would then challenge it in the fact that I'm not saying it's right for someone to speak to your team member like that. But if you shout back, you are as bad as them. So if we can sit here and say shouting and being rude to somebody is not okay, why would you then do that? That's what I see a lot is they do it from a defending point of view. But actually what we want you to do is to be that role model that shows, I'm not saying you tolerate it. You can absolutely go in and say, Bradley, I'm going to stop people. Don't actually allow people to speak to Tom like this, for example. So you can stop it and then you can take that Bradley, for example, for a private conversation you can talk to about expectations of communication and respect in the workplace and so forth. And depending on how severe it was to whether or not if they want to continue to work with you and so forth. And that would depend on the situation. But for you in that situation, your team are watching you for how you've responded to that. And what he did was he reacted. And communication and assertive communication is about being in control. So what I want him to do is to be calm and rational, even when that was a massive trigger for him. He really wants people to respect his team members and treat them fairly. And they weren't, so it triggered him. But the trigger enabled him to then respond in an inappropriate way, which then didn't role model. So then it's effectively showing the team that this is how we respond. If people are rude to us, we shout back. And we're rude and we'll swear too, which is not role modeling. So actually that calm in a crisis and facing it, absolutely showing that you don't accept it or tolerate it, that's really important. And I'm certainly not saying that we don't, but you do that in a calm way and you look for resolution. So it's about awareness of the way that you communicate. And a lot of people don't get feedback on how they communicate. So I always say to people, you have a brand and they go, people would also say, no, I don't. I thought, well, you do. Everybody has a brand and a brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. What do you want people to say about you when you're not in the room? So I'm very clear about what I want people to say about me when I'm not in the room. So I want people to say that I'm knowledgeable and I'm friendly and I'm really positive. So for those three things, for example, I speak about subjects that I do know about. I don't confess to be a master of everything. I know what I know about, and those are the things that I teach and talk about. So the knowledge. Then the positivity is that would come through my tone of voice, my body language. So I smile and I use my hands and I give eye contact. My tone of voice is animated and friendly. And the words that I use are positive. And that's what we call a congruent message, which means that my body language, my tone of voice and my words match. And then that builds my brand. And then when I'm not in the room, people can say those things because I've sent those messages to people. I think some people say things and they don't realize the message that it's sending. So this kind of links in with emotional intelligence, but people need to be aware that, say, for example, language comes in three forms. So our language can be positive, negative, or neutral. And you make a choice how you respond. So if you were to ask me how I am, I'm never going to say to you I'm okay or all right. Very neutral. I'm not neutral. Right? I want them to be positive. So I always say, I'm good. I'm very well, thank you. And you can hear that in my tone as well. I'm good. I'm very well, thank you. And that's that animated. So with the language, so a lot of managers riddle their emails, for example, with unnecessary negative language. And what we do is our brains focus on the negative. And I test this out on my children. You just wouldn't want to be my kid, right? They're like my guinea pigs and they don't even realize it. My children, I say things like, don't slam the door. And what do? Bang, they slam the door. Can you please close the door quietly? They close the door. They go, yeah, sure, Mum. So what we need to do is increase your awareness of how you communicate, knowing that people are always listening to you. We need to be calm. We need to be able to respond appropriately to situations, and we need to be mindful of our body language, of our tone of voice, and the words that we use, so we don't send mixed messages or our messages interpreted in a way that we didn't intend. How do you want to come across? Like, what do you want people to say about you when you're not in a room? And making sure that we're thinking about it all the time. Choose how you turn up, how you communicate in a crisis, in a difficult situation, and be mindful of what you say, because people are always watching and they also copy you, which means if you do it, they're going to do it too. Your bad habits become theirs. Thank you for listening to this episode. Visit our website, thejpgroup.org, the podcast page, where you can download our workbook that accompanies this series for you to take what you've heard and put it into practice.